It is blazing hot, it's summertime, and that means it's shaky head time. Well, today we are going underwater to see how these lures actually look. Oftentimes as anglers, what we think is going on under the water is very, very different than what is actually happening. And in the summertime, when it gets hot, surface temperatures are hot, you have bluebird days and that food chain is down on the bottom. A shaky head rig is an excellent way to get those finicky bass to bite. So that's why I want to show you this footage. And I've got a lot of different baits I'm going to go through today. Of course, a lot of them are Strike King lures since they help me out so much here on the channel. But we have some Bass Pro Shops lures and some Zoom and some Mans and that type of stuff. So you're going to see a variety of lures, a lot of them stick baits, but I'm also going to show you some more non-traditional shaky head baits so you can see what those look like as well. So for today's footage, I want to go through the conditions for you. The surface temperature is about 82 degrees. We are using a 1/4 ounce shaky head. I'm going to use that same shaky head jig head for every lure, and I am running a braid on the spinning reel that is going to a 12-pound monofilament leader. So I'm going to keep that the same for everything, and we're going to do our best to show you the lures down around that 8-foot, that 10-foot mark, not really shallow, because the water pressure, the deeper that you get, makes a big difference on the lure. Probably if you've been swimming in a pool, you understand that when you go down to the deep end and you try to sit on the bottom, that's a lot of pressure. So if you have a shaky head just in a foot of water, it could possibly look and act very different than if it's in 10 foot of water. So let's go ahead and get started. This first one is a Bass Pro Shops Sticko 4-inch, and you can see it actually does a pretty good job of standing up on the bottom. The next one here is one of my favorites. If you watch the channel, you know I love the Rage Menace. This is kind of an untraditional shaky head lure, and you can just see that the tails give it really nice action, and it also has a pretty good stand-up rate to it because it is a smaller lure. Now this next one is a 6.5-inch finesse worm, just made out of traditional plastic, which means it does start to fall over, but on the way down it has a really nice enticing slow action as it falls. This one here was a big surprise to me. This is an old Bass Pro floating worm that I had laying around, and you can see it stands up really well. Just holds its position really well as you're bringing it through the water column. This one is a Zoom finesse worm, just traditional plastic. Obviously the white has high visibility to it, and it slowly falls over, but does a pretty good job of actually standing up for being a traditional plastic, definitely. This one here is one of my favorites that I use all the time on shaky heads, and that is a Fat Baby finesse worm. It's 5-inch like many of the traditional stick baits, and I've had a lot of luck with this particular lure over the years. As you can see, it stands up pretty good, and then the tail eventually just drops over just a little bit. Now this one here is a stick bait, the Zero, out of the Elastec material, which is very buoyant, and it just stands straight up. So if you have some sort of cover on the bottom, this one will stand up out of it. This is a 4-inch model, actually the Yum stick bait, and it drops over pretty quick. So if I was using this particular lure, I'd want to make sure I've got a clean bottom, a rocky bottom, something with not a lot of cover. Here's another untraditional shaky head, the Structure Bug, more of a creature bait. And this one does a really nice job as well. And I would use this, you know, once again, if I've got a fairly clean bottom, but this one actually does well. This is an Old Man's finesse worm here, and as you can see, being the traditional plastic, it does eventually want to fall over, but it has a nice action as you pull it up. That very finesse tail wiggles well. This one surprised me quite a bit. This 5-inch trick stick does an excellent job of maintaining vertical presentation all the way through. So I was really impressed with this particular lure as well. This one here is a finesse worm made out of the Elastec. It's brown there, it's kind of hard to see, but it stands up perfectly. Has a little kink to it in the tail. And then this one here is a super fry, or like a French fry, made out of traditional plastic, and it stands up really nice on the shaky head as well, but it's relatively short. As you can see, there's just a wide range of actions on these lures under the water. Now, depending on the bottom composition that you have on your lake or river, some of those lures that are more likely to lay down horizontal, those would be okay if they're not getting buried up in the silt, the muck, or shallow weeds. But if you have some cover on the bottom, some shallow vegetation or vegetation that stands up a few inches, you're probably going to want to choose some of those shaky head lures that stand up more vertically, especially some of those made with some of the Elastec plastics really stand up straight. If you like the underwater footage, why don't you go ahead and check out this one here. It's some Carolina rig baits that we have underwater that I did way back last summer, one of our popular videos. Check that one out, and don't forget to go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the bass fishing life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.